Hi my lovelies, and welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Sharon. I am 62 years old and I started this channel back at the end of January, which was just really because I wanted to document my own journey with budgeting, trying to live a more frugal lifestyle because I have no other option than to do so. So yeah, if you're interested in shopping hauls, talking about money and some recipes thrown in along the way, then you are in the right place. So my circumstances changed 2.5 years ago, and I left the home that I was living in and yeah, moved into this rented property on my own. And as my channel suggests, I am living on what I consider to be a low income, although my company does pride itself on the fact that it does pay a few pence over the required national minimum wage. So yay for that is what I say. So yeah, I've changed spots today because my battery has almost gone on my phone and I keep my charger next to my bed. So I thought, rather than running up and down the stairs and leaving it to charge for a while, I can be plugged in and I can be doing my video at the same time if I sit on my bed. I'm not sure that the light is quite as forgiving, quite like my spot at the dining table, but there you go. We thought we would change things up a little bit today. So yeah, for Sunday videos, as you guys know, if you've been around for a while, I usually talk about money in some way, shape or form. And next week will be my June roundup, and I've got lots to talk about next week when it comes to that. So I'm actually looking forward to doing that video. It might be a long one. But in light of my trip to London on Wednesday, which some of you would have seen, I had a lovely day out in London with my friend Sharon over at Living on a Part-Time Income UK, and we went for lunch, and we had also booked tickets to go and see The Devil Wears Prada. So we have been meeting up in London for many years, and we've never been to the theatre together, so that was really nice and we had a lovely day. But again, for anybody who has been around for a little while on this channel now, you may know that when it came to the end of May and thinking about all the things that I had on in June, that I was in a real panic. I can remember talking about it on here, and I can remember it clearly myself, that I was getting ready for work one day and I was sort of almost felt like I was starting to get palpitations because all of the things that I had coming up in June were all just spinning around in my head, and all I was thinking about was, am I going to be able to afford to do these things that I've got planned? I had some birthdays, I had my day trip to London planned, although the ticket had previously been bought. But yeah, there was quite a lot on for me for June. And it was only when I sat down, and I think I may have showed you, I started work, and in between calls I grabbed an envelope from the table where I was sitting that I'd just put there the day before. It was a letter for the previous occupant, and it was only from Plum's furniture covers, so it was nothing important. And I began to write down everything that I had coming up, and I did a rough budget plan for what things were going to cost. And I am pleased to report that I've come in under budget on quite a few of those things, which is really good. We'll go over that next week. But that situation, and then my day out in London, and then the fact that I only a couple of weeks ago got invited to an engagement party, it got me thinking about summer events and budgeting for things that are coming up in the summertime. I think most of us tend to have more on. I think we kind of hibernate in winter, really, don't we? And then, you know, summer comes along, and, you know, you might have kids yourself of school age. You want to do things with the kids, or maybe you're like me and you have your grandchildren in the holidays to help out with some childcare, and you feel like you've got to entertain them and do things that you haven't always got the money to do. There might be last minute invitations to barbecues and parties, as well as things that you know may be coming up, like weddings and holidays and things like that. But it got me thinking about kind of what I'd learnt from that situation myself, sitting down and thinking about it and kind of adopting a summer plan, which hopefully might help some of you guys as well, because it's all about learning from each other. And I'm no financial advisor, so I am just literally talking through with you the kind of ideas that I've come up with, in hope that you know, there might be a little snippet of information in there that will help you out over the coming months. So yeah, let's have a little look. So firstly, I would say have a look. So I'll be looking down at my notes, so please excuse me, because this is one that I've been making notes for. It's not all coming off of the top of my head. As when I don't refer to notes, I do forget things. I make a video and then I think, oh, should have said this, should have said that. So yeah, we've got some notes here. So firstly, I would say have a look at what you've got coming up. So what is already on your calendar or in your diary? So things like, do you have a holiday? Have you got to entertain kids or grandkids during the holidays? Have you got any events to attend that you know about already? So things like weddings, birthday parties, perhaps somebody's got a barbecue planned, that kind of thing. So look at what you've got coming up, and then the next step, I would say, is estimate summer expenses for each of those things that you've got coming up, and also to plan for some unexpected things as well. So, for example, I've got a friend who very often during the summer months will throw a barbecue or two. It's nothing that I know about now, but if she does do that, I'm going to be in a situation where I feel as if I've either got to offer to bring some food, and if that's not required, then I would want to be grabbing sort of some flowers from the supermarket, maybe £5, or a bottle of cheap wine, you know, maybe £7 to take with me, you know, something for the host. So things do crop up last minute, weather dependent, just like they get cancelled, weather dependent. So yeah, estimate summer expenses for each thing you know you've got coming up, and set a budget for each thing. So holidays, travel, activities, gifts, and also if you've got a wedding to go to and you still haven't got anything to wear, then maybe outfits as well might come into play with that. Then the next step, I would say, is review your income. I mean, luckily for me, what enabled me to cover the expenses throughout June was the fact that I had some overtime from Easter Monday. And I think I mentioned again previously that we were offered, did we want to take the time off, or did we want the money? And I said money, and I really wanted to say the time off, but I said I would have the money, and boy, am I glad that I did, because that allowed me to sort out my expenses for June. And without that money, some things I wouldn't have been able to do, or I would have had to have slashed the budget for my two daughters' birthdays. I may not, you know, have been able to do one or two of the things on that list for the month. So I was super grateful for that, because I pretty much use my sinking funds on a monthly basis, apart from the holiday one. And sometimes there might be some money to carry over. So say, for example, I've put £20 in a socialising sinking fund, but I've only met one friend during that monthly period and I've had one cup of coffee, then obviously there will be some money to carry over. But 9 times out of 10, I would say my sinking funds get used each month. So they're not there to build up, because they're not the kind of sinking funds I've got. None of them are for savings. None of them are for emergency expenses. They are just for day-to-day living. And some people, of course, have a set amount per month in their purse or in a bank account, and they tend to live off of that. Well, I tend to separate mine out, you know, for hair appointments, self-care, which for me would be makeup, skincare, body care, that kind of thing, socialising and holidays. So the only one that ever seems to have any money remaining in it is the holiday one. And then if I need money and for another sinking fund, or I've got something to buy and I haven't got the money to cover it, then I tend to always dip into my holiday sinking fund to make up for it. So yeah, review your income. So look at salary, first of all, what you're earning. Any side hustle income, so any jobs, I mean, maybe you know, you're on YouTube, you've got YouTube income coming in or about to come in, like myself. It should be due this coming week, so that'll be amazing that I can actually start my savings fund off. Very excited for that. So look again at any bonuses or overtime, because it was the overtime that really helped me to get through. And then create a budget plan for each event that you've got coming up. So just like I did on the back of that envelope, once it's on paper and you can see it clearly, you can plan accordingly. So rather than sitting and thinking, oh my God, you know, the kids break up in 3 weeks' time and, you know, they want to do this and they want to do that, without a plan of what you can do and what you can afford, it's all just going to keep spinning around in your head, like it was for me that morning. It was making me anxious. I felt like I was going to have a panic attack, and you know, it really can be an expensive time of year. You know, and I've learned a harsh lesson myself, and you know, I just want to share that experience with you, with some tips that I've thought about using for myself, which may then, you know, work for you. Hopefully they will. So yeah, side hustle income, bonuses or overtime, then create your budget plan. So if you need some extra money, you really don't think you can afford things that you've got coming up, at least now, by looking at it now, when we're approaching the end of June, kids don't break up for a while. If you need extra income, what can you do to bring it in? And there's not many ways really that we can make money quite quickly other than selling stuff. So maybe have a declutter, you know, clear out your wardrobe, get on Vinted, get on eBay. Bigger things or electricals you might be able to sell on Facebook Marketplace. Maybe you could do a boot fair even, now that the weather's improved. I'm sure that boot fairs have all started. Unfortunately, I don't drive, so it's not something I can do. But that could be an option, because if you do a boot fair, you're pretty much guaranteed you're going to have that money that day. Whereas if you put things up for sale on Vinted, I mean, if you do, I really hope they sell nice and quickly for you. But I've still got some things on my Vinted that I put up last summer which still haven't sold. So although I've been really successful on Vinted over these last couple of weeks, and I'm super happy with what I've done, some things you put up and they sell straight away, some things you put up and they don't. I haven't used eBay myself for some years, and I certainly know that when I did, you could set your auctions back then for 3, 5, 7 or 10 days, and at least that way you knew if your item was going to sell or not, because when the auction ended, you knew that in 5 or 7 days time you would know if your item had sold. Whereas with Vinted, I do feel that is a little bit of a downfall in that respect, but it swings and roundabouts with both, I'm sure, and I'm quite on board with Vinted more than eBay. As like I say, I haven't used eBay for many a year. So how that operates now, if it's different to what I've just mentioned, then please let me know in the comments, because it might help other people reading through them as well. I would then say next step would be to check in with your budget weekly to see how you're getting on. So for me, I've got my budget book, so every time I have bought something that was on my list for June, or I've done something that was on that list for June, I have looked at what I've budgeted, I've looked at the actual cost, and then I've been able to see whether I've been slightly over budget, as I was for my cards in Card Factory, or maybe I've been under budget. For example, like I was for our lunch on Wednesday, I had budgeted £35 for that, and it came in at £29.31. So yeah, definitely check each week what you've done, what it cost, and look at that budget, and can you readjust anything going forward? Have you got any money to take forward to the following week as well? And then my next bit of advice, and this is based on things that I have done with my grandchildren. So my two eldest grandchildren, I do have them in the summer holidays. They are, the elder two, well, they've recently had birthdays this spring, so they are now 10 and 8. And depending on my days off, because as you guys know, I tend to work weekends and possibly have days off in the week. We're a 24, not 24/7, we're a 7-day-a-week operation with early and late shifts. So yeah, we close at, like, the phone lines close at 8 p.m. So I do work late, but when I've got days off in the week, if I've got no other plans, then I'm sure, you know, I always make sure that I let my eldest daughter know these are the dates that I am available to have the kids. And when I have them, you know, they want entertaining. It's just the way it is for kids now. Very different to when I was a child, just playing out on your bike in the back alley and having fun with your friends. Now there seems to be such a lot of pressure on keeping kids entertained and you know, stopping them from being bored. But look out, if you're on a budget, whether you're, you know, a mum or a grandparent, looking after kids this summer, I would say look out for places where kids eat for free. So I'm a big fan of going to Marks and Spencer's with my two eldest grandchildren. We don't have a clothing department store in the town where I live, and it's quite a long walk from where I live, but we do go there. We have a very small food store with a small cafe attached to it. Now M&S usually in the summer holidays, and they're not the only place that do it, they do one full paying adult and a child eats for free. Now when I've taken my grandchildren, because I think you have to spend £5 or over to qualify for the free kids meal, but at my local Marks and Spencer's they've let me spend £10 and get 2 kids for free. So that's worked really well, and I know there are lots and lots of places. So with the summer holidays coming up, make sure, you know, Google will be your friend to find out about these things. So there will be plenty of places that you can find that will do kids eat for free. So look out for those. Now, last summer I took the grandchildren, or the 2 granddaughters, to Pets at Home for a free workshop. So if you've got a Pets at Home near you, or you drive and you can travel to one quite easily, they do these free workshops during the summer holidays. And I would say book ahead, because they do get booked up. And I booked it for the summer of 2023, and unfortunately it got cancelled just the day before I was having the girls over. I think I got a text or an email to say it had been cancelled. So yeah, I was really gutted, and then I couldn't get back in for the rest of the holidays. But luckily it all worked out fine in the summer of 24 last year, and I took them along. And what it is, it's a they get to hold and they get to learn about all of the kind of like small pets that are in the shops. They get to hold, you know, guinea pigs and rats and mice and anything like that that they want. So there's no obligation, of course, but the person who does the little talk, you know, she talks about the animals, where they're from, what they eat and that kind of thing. So it's super interesting. It was super interesting for me as well, and it's only about 45 minutes, but you know, my two granddaughters really enjoyed it, and yeah, I've got lots of lovely pictures of them holding some things that I wouldn't dream of holding. But there you go, that's kids for you. So that's something else that you can do for free. And I would also say check out local leisure centres, libraries, museums. Check for free stuff and just see what's on in your local area or slightly further afield, if, like I say, if you drive and you can actually travel. And then when it comes to food, little things like when I take them to the cinema, which I very often do, they do like going to the cinema, I will always fill up, trying to think of the word, not bottles, but you know, proper bottles. I will fill them with squash, and I will go in the supermarket and buy bags of popcorn or some sweets rather than pay cinema prices. And you can do that for wherever you're going. Just take your own food where possible, and also think about picnics in you know, parks and at the seaside as well. If you know, again, it's within distance to where you live. Just a day at the beach with a picnic that you've taken rather than buying food out, you know, can be a fun experience. So that's pretty much all of my notes on planning for summer. So now it's over to you guys. I would love to know if you found anything in this video helpful, giving you any food for thought. What have you got coming up this summer? What have you got to plan for? What have you got to budget for? And also, if you have got any budgeting tips for summer activities coming up, I would love to know. And I'm sure that everybody else would love to read through the comments and see what hints and tips they can pick up from you guys as well. But I've certainly got my summer budgeting head screwed on now, and I hope you will do too. So have a great day, whatever you're up to today, and I hope you've cooled down a little bit after the recent very hot temperatures that we have had. And I will be back on Wednesday. That will be with the first shop of the month. So yeah, I'll be back with that on Wednesday. And don't forget to like, subscribe. I would really appreciate it if you do, and leave a comment. They are all very much appreciated, and thank you for taking the time, if you've got to the end, to listen to my ramblings. And yeah, let's all have a great frugal-ish summer that we have budgeted for, to save the panic setting in. Take care guys, and I'll see you on Wednesday. Bye bye.